Tour the cruise ports, the Bahamas.
The Bahamas Table of Contents.
Dr. Sydney Soclof. drsidney22@gmail.com. 2022.
Narration by Dr. Sydney Soclof,
Zoe Phonemes,
and Nathan Koltove. For a more complete discussion of YouTube navigation, please go to this video using the link here.
The Bahamas, the closest foreign country.
It's not a long way to the Bahamas.
This shows the distance from Fort Lauderdale to Nassau in the Bahamas. It's only 187 miles.
This shows the distance from the port of Miami to Nassau in the Bahamas. It's only 183 miles.
The Bimini Islands are only 50 miles from Miami. This is the flag of the Bahamas. The blue represents the water. The yellow represents the sun. And the black represents the majority of the people. 85% of whom are black.
The Bahamas coat of arms is a composition of things indigenous to the islands, while the national motto "Forward Upward, Onward Together" heralds to the direction and manner in which the Bahamian nation should move. A light pink conch shell atop the crest of the arms symbolizes the marine life of the Bahamas, and the green palm fronds are symbolic of the natural vegetation.
The Santa Maria, flagship of Christopher Columbus, appears on the shield of the coat of arms. The small blue waves on the bottom symbolize the waters of the Bahamas.
The shield is charged with a radiant sun to signify the world-famous balmy resort climate, and it also connotes the bright future of these islands.
A flamingo, the national bird, and a silvery blue marlin support the shield.
This is a poem about the Bahamas by Bliss Carman. Look from your door, and tell me now, the color of the sea. Where can I buy that wondrous dye, and take it home with me?
This is the Bahamas Anthem. The Bahamas became independent from the UK in 1973, but remains part of the British Commonwealth. The Bahamas.
The official name is the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. The independent Commonwealth of the Bahamas is an archipelago consisting of about 700 islands and cays, or keys, and almost 2,400 low, barren rock formations. Only 22 of the islands and cays are inhabited. Chapter 2. Location and Geography of the Bahamas.
The Bahamas are a group of islands just to the east of Florida.
Technically, the chain of islands known as the Bahamas is not really in the Caribbean Sea, although they are usually considered to be part of the Caribbean.
The Bahamas are, however, part of the West Indies, which is comprised of three main island groups: the Bahamas in the north, the Greater Antilles in the west, and the Lesser Antilles in the southeast.
It's easy to get the Bahamas confused with Bermuda, especially since they are both former British colonies, and now both members of the Commonwealth.
Bermuda is not at all in the Caribbean, and is way out in the Atlantic Ocean, 650 miles, 1,050 kilometers, east of the nearest land mass, which is Cape Hatteras, North Carolina.
The Bahamas are a series of flat coral and limestone islands that extend in an arc that is 750 miles long.
The Bahamas consist of over 3,000 islands and reefs.
How big are the Bahamas?
The Bahamian archipelago is about 750 miles, or 1,200 kilometers in extent from Grand Bahama Island in the northwest to Great Inagua Island in the southeast.
The archipelago extends from a point off the east coast of Florida, almost to Haiti, at the western end of the island of Hispaniola.
The distance between Freeport in the Bahamas and Miami is only 108 miles, or 174 kilometers. Freeport is almost east of Fort Lauderdale. The Great Inagua Island is only 50 miles, or 80 kilometers from the eastern tip of Cuba. The land area of the Bahamas is 5,382 square miles, 13,939 square kilometers. This is the same as the U.S. state of Connecticut, and about twice the area of the island of Cyprus at 9,250 square miles.
Here is the North American continental shelf.
The North American continental shelf extends a great distance from the coast into the ocean.
The Bahama Islands are the exposed portions of the Great Bahama Bank, an extension of the North American continental shelf.
The waters around the Bahamas are very shallow. The Bahamas are flat coral islands.
Through this island barrier there are only 3 channels for large vessels.
The Great and Little Bahama Banks. The islands basically rise above sea level from the banks on the skeletal remains of coral and ephemerine organisms.
Because of the shallow waters of the Great Bahama Bank, the course of shipping from points further south will take this roundabout one to Nassau on New Providence Island, by the Great Tongue of the ocean. The islands are generally low and flat. The highest point in the entire archipelago, on Cat Island, is only 206 feet, 63 meters, above sea level.
There are no running streams, except on Andros, the largest island. Fresh water is obtained from wells dug in underlying rocks.
What are the principal islands of the Bahamas?
Here are some of the principal islands of the Bahamas. On New Providence Island is the capital, Nassau, a popular winter resort. Other Bahama islands are Grand Bahama, Great Abaco, Andros, Eleuthera, and Long Island. The population of the Bahamas is 390,000. About 2/3 of the Bahamian population is concentrated on New Providence Island, which, with Grand Bahama and Great Abaco, has received the most internal migration. Nassau is the most important city for tourist and commercial activity. Freeport on Grand Bahama Island has become the most important center of industrial development, and is second only to Nassau in tourist and commercial activity.
Nassau and Freeport are the only 2 deep-water harbors of the Bahamas, and many passenger and freight ships visit these 2 ports each year.
Many cruise ships visit the Bahamas and dock at Prince George Wharf in Nassau.
The Bahamas still retain their British colonial atmosphere. Its British heritage is evident in the pink colonial buildings that surround Parliament Square in Nassau.
The distance from Nassau in the Bahamas to Miami is about 200 miles, or 320 kilometers. The distance from Freeport in the Bahamas to Miami is only 108 miles, or 174 kilometers.
The distance from Freeport in the Bahamas to New York City is 1,011 miles. Or 1,626 kilometers. Chapter 3. Nassau is the capital and largest city of the Bahamas. Nassau was named after King William III of England, who ruled jointly with his wife, Mary II. He was a member of the Dutch House of Orange-Nassau. He ruled as King of England from 1689 until his death in 1702.
The city of Nassau is located on the northeast coast of New Providence Island. New Providence Island is quite small, measuring only 27 miles, or 44 kilometers long, and only about 5 miles, or 8 kilometers, at its widest point.
This is a satellite view showing the blue waters of the Atlantic Ocean surrounding New Providence Island, south and east to Eleuthera.
This is a view of Nassau looking toward Paradise Island and the Atlantis Hotel.
This is a view of Nassau.
This is downtown Nassau. The main shopping street is Bay Street, very close to the cruise ship piers.
This is another view of downtown Nassau.
This is Bay Street and the cruise ship piers.
This is Bay Street in Nassau.
This is Bay Street in Nassau.
There are lots of shops along Bay Street.
Parliament Square was originally built in the late 1700s and early 1800s by Loyalists who came from North Carolina to the Bahamas.
Parliament Square is a popular attraction in downtown Nassau. Its colonial-influenced pink buildings include the House of Assembly, the Senate Building and the Supreme Court of the Bahamas. They are symbolic of the past, present, and future of the country.
This is downtown Nassau showing Parliament and Parliament Square.
This is Parliament Square in the center of Nassau.
This is a statue of Queen Victoria in front of the Parliament building.
On the other side of the Parliament building is Rawson Square. Rawson Square in downtown Nassau is the main historical district, and the buildings are still in use today. The same pastel color scheme for painting buildings is used throughout the whole island.
Fort Charlotte was built to defend the island against marauding pirates.
Fort Charlotte was built in 1789 by Lord Dunmow, and named in honor of the wife of King George III. This fort has never fired a shot in battle.
Fort Charlotte has a waterless moat, drawbridge, ramparts and dungeons. It offers a very good view of Nassau Harbor.
This shows the location of Fort Charlotte. The Queen's Staircase consists of 65 steps, hewn out of solid coral rock.
This is the Queen's Staircase. Fort Fincastle was built in 1793 in the shape of a paddle wheel steamer.
This is downtown Nassau showing Fort Fincastle, the Watatawee, and the Queen's Staircase. This is a view from Fort Fincastle, showing 2 cruise ships in port at the downtown Watatawee. You can take the elevator to the observation point, 216 feet above sea level, for a panoramic view of Nassau.
Dolphin Encounters is an all-natural seawater dolphin facility located on Blue Lagoon Island, Salt Cay, in Nassau. Dolphin Encounters started as a rescue facility in 1989. The beach scenes in the movie Splash were taped on Blue Lagoon Island. Dolphin Encounters is home to 18 Atlantic bottlenose dolphins and 6 California sea lions.
A carriage ride is a relaxing way to see Nassau. A carriage ride in Nassau.
Balcony House is believed to be Nassau's oldest standing residence. A freestanding balcony gives this 18th-century wooden Loyalist-style architectural gem its name.
Balcony House was fully restored as a period museum in 1992 and appointed with stately furnishings and unique objects.
Chapter 4. The Pirates of the Caribbean.
Pirates were among the most colorful figures in Bahamian history. The golden age of piracy lasted from the reign of Queen Elizabeth I in the 16th century until the early 19th century, when European and U.S. navies put an end to it.
Pirates preyed on Spanish galleons laden with gold and silver. and then later on merchant ships. The height of plundering lasted about the decade from 1715 to 1725.
Nassau was considered the capital of piracy, and there is a pirate museum in Nassau.
The Pirate Museum in Nassau is a fascinating interactive museum with exhibits of historical artifacts and a guided tour of the golden age of piracy.
The Pirate Museum is a popular attraction in Nassau.
This shows the location of the Pirate Museum. It's about 1 block south of Bay Street.
The part of the New World coast from South America through the Caribbean to northern Florida was known as the Spanish Mine.
It was from ports along these coasts that Spanish galleons, large treasure ships, sailed for Europe. The other European powers began attacking these ships and taking the gold for themselves.
Men who attack and rob ships at sea are called pirates. Many of the romantic stories that have been written about them are imaginative pieces of fiction. Nevertheless, their actual adventures often changed the course of history. Most pirates were English at 35%, but other nationalities were also represented.
When most people think of pirates and piracy, they picture Spanish galleons loaded with silver and gold. They recall such names as Henry Morgan, Captain Kidd, and Blackbeard.
Probably the most successful pirate was Sir Henry Morgan, a Welshman. He had come to the West Indies when he was a young man. Under Morgan, the buccaneers plundered Puerto del Príncipe, now in Cuba, Portobello, now in Panama, and Maracaibo, now in Venezuela.
In his teens, Henry Morgan joined a pirate crew from Tortuga. After several successful trips, Morgan became a vice admiral in the buccaneer fleet and quickly became very famous and rich. Later, Morgan settled down on a plantation he had purchased in Jamaica. King Charles II knighted him, and he later became deputy governor of Jamaica. Morgan died in 1688 a contented man. Few pirates enjoyed a retirement like Morgan's. Some were caught, tried and hung for their misdeeds, and many more died of disease or alcoholism. Another famous pirate is known as Blackbeard, whose real name is thought to be Edward Teach. Blackbeard began his career as a privateer and later joined the crew of a pirate ship. He soon had his own ship, and in May of 1718, he was bold enough to blockade the harbor of Charleston, South Carolina, demanded ransom and got it. Lieutenant Robert Maynard, of the British Navy, with 62 men attacked the pirates there and put an end to Blackbeard. The British Navy continued to hunt down pirates in the Caribbean and along North American coasts. Harsh laws were enacted to punish those who bought or sold to pirates. These measures, along with rules forbidding cruel punishments on Navy vessels, brought the golden age of piracy to an end.
Chapter 5. Ardastra Gardens and Zoo.
A major attraction near Nassau is the Ardastra Gardens and Zoo.
The Ardastra Gardens Zoo and Conservation Center opened in 1937 through the work of the Jamaican horticulturist Hedley Vivian Edwards.
In the 1950s, the Bahamian government brought flamingos with the intention of breeding, as they had become rare there. The flamingos are the national bird of the Bahamas.
In 1982, the gardens were bought by Bahamian Norman Solomon, who started the first Bahamian zoo. Best known for its flamingos, the zoo now has about 200 animals.
A major attraction in Ardastra Gardens and Zoo is the marching pink flamingos.
The marching pink flamingos.
The marching pink flamingos.
These are the marching flamingos at the Ardastra Gardens in Nassau. This shows the location of Ardastra Gardens and Zoo.
Chapter 6. Paradise Island.
A very popular tourist attraction is Paradise Island and the magnificent Atlantis Hotel. This is a map of Nassau showing the location of Paradise Island.
This shows Nassau, the Paradise Island Bridge, and Paradise Island. Paradise Island is connected to the island of New Providence by two bridges that cross Nassau Harbor. The first was built in 1966 by Resorts International, and the second in the late 1990s.
This shows the location of the Paradise Island Bridge connecting Nassau to Paradise Island.
Atlantis Paradise Island is an ocean-themed resort on Paradise Island.
Atlantis Paradise Island features a variety of accommodations built around aquaventure, a 141-acre waterscape, which includes fresh and saltwater lagoons, pools, marine habitats, water slides, and river rides.
These are resort hotels on Paradise Island.
A good way to get from the cruise ship terminal to Paradise Island is by water taxi. It's only $4 per person, with departures every 30 minutes. Chapter 7. Freeport. In contrast to Nassau, Freeport on Grand Bahama Island is a very new city. In 1955, Wallace Groves, a Virginian financier with lumber interests on the island, was granted 50,000 acres, 200 square kilometers, of swamp and scrubland on Grand Bahama Island by the Bahamian government. The city of Freeport was built on this island. It has grown to be the second largest city in the Bahamas, population 27,000, after Nassau.
Freeport Harbor is accessible by even the largest vessels, and has a cruise terminal, a container port, and both a private yacht and ship maintenance facility.
Tourism complements trade as a revenue earner in Freeport, with over 1 million visitors each year. Much of the tourist industry is in the seaside suburb of Lucaya.
This shows the location of Lucaya.
The city is often promoted as Freeport Lucaya. Most hotels on the island are located along the southern Atlantic Ocean shore. Lucaya owes its name, but little else, to the pre-Columbian Lucayan inhabitants of the island.
Primary shopping venues for tourists include the International Bazaar near downtown Freeport, and the Port Lucaya Market Plus in Lucaya. The Luis de Torres Synagogue in Freeport is the only synagogue in the Bahamas. It is named after Luis de Torres, who was an interpreter for Christopher Columbus, and set foot on the island of San Salvador 500 years ago. Luis de Torres was to be an interpreter for Christopher Columbus, because it was thought that the people they encountered may be remnants of the 10 lost tribes, and might speak Hebrew.
That turned out to not be the case.
Chapter 8. The history of the Bahamas.
One of the Bahama Islands, San Salvador, now known as Waddling Island, is probably the site where Christopher Columbus first landed in the New World on October 12, 1492.
From there, Columbus continued his explorations through the Bahamas and into the Caribbean. When he first sighted San Salvador in 1492, Christopher Columbus said, "There came from the land the scent of flowers or trees, so delicious and sweet, that it was the most delightful thing in the world." This painting depicts Columbus landing on San Salvador Island. This painting depicts Columbus claiming the land for Spain. This is a plaque presented by the government of Spain in commemoration of the first landing on San Salvador in 1492.
This is the inscription on the plaque presented by the government of Spain on the occasion of the visit of the replicas of Christopher Columbus caravels, on February 10, 1992 in commemoration of the first landing on San Salvador in 1492.
The Bahama Islands got their name from the Spanish word Bahamar, meaning shallow water.
The Bahamas history, a quick overview. From 1492 to 1508. Spanish raiders carried off about 40,000 natives to work in the mines of Hispaniola, Haiti and the Dominican Republic. The islands remained depopulated more than a century before the first English settlement.
British interest began in 1629 when Charles I granted Sir Robert Heath, Attorney General of England, territories in America including
Bahama and all other isles and islands lying southerly there or near upon the foresaid continent. In 1729, the islands had their first government assembly.
British settlement of the islands began in 1647. The islands became a crown colony in 1718, but they remained sparsely settled. After the American Revolution, the newly independent United States expelled thousands of American Tories and their slaves.
Expulsion of the Tories, UK Loyalists during the American Revolution from 1776 to 1783. Some 8,000 Loyalists and their slaves went to the Bahamas in the late 1700s.
The governor of the Bahamas in the period 1940 to 1945 was the Duke of Windsor, formerly King Edward VIII of the UK.
The British government wanted to get him out of the way, so they sent him way across the Atlantic to the Bahamas. They were glad to get rid of her too. In 1964, the Bahamas were given internal self-government. In 1973, the Bahamas got full independence from Britain as the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. Under the 1973 Constitution, a Governor-General was appointed by the British Crown. Be careful. Being a former British colony, cars still drive on the left.
Chapter 9. The people of the Bahamas.
Englishmen came to the Bahamas in the 1600s, and the island group later became a British colony. However, the society and culture that have developed are an unusual blend of both the European settlement and the African heritage that are a legacy of the island's former slave trade. These are the ethnic groups in the Bahamas.
The Bahamas have the distinction of having more places of worship per person than any other nation in the world.
Here is the religious affiliation in the Bahamas. A high percentage of Bahamians are members of Christian churches.
Most are Protestants, the largest denominations being Baptist, Church of God, Anglicans, and Methodists. Roman Catholics form a large minority.
Chapter 10. The climate of the Bahamas.
Will it be hot in the Bahamas? Or will it be very hot? The climate of the Bahamas is very much influenced by the surrounding ocean currents. Here are the ocean currents of the Western Hemisphere. We see that the South Equatorial Current enters the Caribbean Sea. This South Equatorial Current enters the Caribbean mainly through the channels and passages of the Southern Antilles.
These waters are then forced by the trade winds through the narrow Yucatan Channel into the Gulf of Mexico. The wind-driven surface water piles up in the Yucatan Basin and the Gulf of Mexico, where it results in a higher average sea level than in the Atlantic. This forms a hydrostatic head that is the main driving force of the warm Florida Current or Gulf Stream, which flows out through the Straits of Florida into the Atlantic Ocean, surrounding the Bahamas.
This map shows the average surface sea temperatures in the Caribbean Sea in February 2005. We see that the temperatures throughout the Caribbean are fairly uniform at about 27 degrees Celsius or 81 degrees Fahrenheit.
We see the great influence of the Gulf Stream in warming the waters of the North Atlantic.
Here are the average high and low temperatures in degrees Fahrenheit and Celsius throughout the year in Nassau. Because of the moderating effect of the ocean, there is not much of a seasonal temperature variation. Also, the nighttime temperatures do not decrease by more than about 10 degrees Fahrenheit or 6 degrees Celsius below the daytime temperatures.
The winter daytime temperature is a comfortable 77 degrees Fahrenheit or 25 degrees Celsius. The summer daytime temperature is a warm to hot 88 degrees Fahrenheit or 31 degrees Celsius.
Here is a comparison of the average high temperatures in the villages to those in Nassau.
Here is a comparison of the average low temperatures in the village to those in Nassau.
The rainfall in the Bahamas.
Here is the rainfall throughout the year in Nassau. The yearly total is 51 inches or 1,295 millimeters.
We see that the rainy season is in the months of May through October.
The dry season is in the months of November through April.
Here is a comparison of the average monthly rainfall in the villages to that in Nassau.
Chapter 11. The money of the Bahamas.
The Bahamian dollar is pegged to the US dollar on a 1-to-1 basis.
This is a Bahamas 1997 $5 note.
This is a Bahamas 1984 $1 note. This is a Bahamas 1974 $20 note.
This is a Bahamas 1965 $3 note.
This is the Bahamas 1965 $1/2 note.
This is a Bahamas 1936 4 shillings note. Chapter 12. The economy of the Bahamas.
Lacking natural resources other than their magnificent climate and dazzling beaches, the islands are economically dependent on tourism.
About 2/3 of the island's workers are involved in tourist-related businesses.
The many attractions, including gambling casinos that have opened in several areas, have brought a relatively high standard of living for the mostly native population. The economy is also dependent on banking. Forests cover about 1/3 of the land area of the Bahamas in the southeastern islands. The traditional pattern of small farming and fishing still prevails in many villages.
Due to the thin soil cover, less than 1% of the land is suitable for growing crops. However, fruits and vegetables are grown. Pigs, sheep, goats, and turkeys thrive.
Crayfish, lumber, and pulpwood are shipped chiefly to the United States.
Standard of living. The continued popularity of the islands, largely with North American tourists, has maintained a relatively high standard of living among the population, most of whom are black.
The Bahamas has an open shipping registry, and the merchant fleet sailing under its flag is one of the largest in the world. There is no direct taxation, and customs duties produce the major share of revenue.
Ranked 11th in the world a few years ago, the Bahamas Ship Registry is now the third largest ship registry center in the world and continues to be one of the fastest growing. The ship registry in the Bahamas has grown more than 1,500 vessels carrying more than 27 million gross tons, GRT.
The Bahamas is number 1 in cruise ship registry.
It has more passenger ships listed on its registry than any other jurisdiction.
It's number 4 in tonnage of merchant vessels.
And number 5 in number of merchant vessels.
Chapter 13. CoCo Cay is also known as Little Stirrup Cay.
CoCo Cay.
CoCo Cay, Little Stirrup Cay in the Bahamas, is one of the Berry Islands, a collection of cays and small islands, and is located approximately 55 miles north of Nassau.
This shows the location of CoCo Cay.
This shows the location of the Berry Islands.
CoCo Cay is at the northern end of the Berry Islands.
CoCo Cay is 55 miles, 89 kilometers northwest of Nassau.
This shows the location of CoCo Cay with respect to Nassau. This shows CoCo Cay, or Little Stirrup Cay, and Great Stirrup Cay.
This again shows CoCo Cay, or Little Stirrup Cay, and Great Stirrup Cay. The east end of CoCo Cay is the center of recreational activities, with beaches fronting a coral basin, where manatee, rays, and numerous fish can be seen. There is a rocky inlet on the north side of the island large enough for the tenders operate from. Nature trails run the entire length and width of the island.
Royal Caribbean and celebrity cruise ships frequently anchor off the island and bring passengers ashore by tenders.
Activities available to guests include swimming, snorkeling, kayaking, parasailing, scuba diving, and wave runner piloting. Chapter 14. Great Stirrup Cay.
This is an aerial view of the Great Stirrup Cay.
Great Stirrup Cay is in the Berry Islands, about 100 miles, or 160 kilometers, northwest of Nassau.
Great Stirrup Cay is at the northern end of the Berry Islands, almost due east of Miami.
There is no pier or dock at all on Great Stirrup Cay, so this is how you get there. On a boat like this. Seen approaching cruise ship.
Upon arrival on the beach, the ramp goes down to disembark the passengers.
The ramp is down, and the passengers are going onto the beach.
This is the beach at Great Stirrup Cay. Miami is 125 miles from here.
And Nassau is only 58 miles from here. The buffet is even closer. Just a very short distance away.
The beach at Great Stirrup Cay.
Chapter 15. Recommended videos, the Bahamas.
Recommended video, top 10 attractions in the Bahamas 8 minutes.
Recommended video, top 10 things to do in Nassau, Bahamas. 9 minutes. 12 seconds.
Recommended video, Bahamas Vacation Travel Video Guide. 25 minutes. 35 seconds.
Recommended video, Bahamas Vacation Travel Video Guide. 51 minutes. 34 seconds.
Recommended video, Geography Now. The Bahamas 10 minutes. 40 seconds.
Recommended video, History of the Bahamas. 24 minutes. 26 seconds.
Chapter 16. YouTube navigation.
To play or pause the video, select the appropriate icon, or press the K key or the space bar.
The right and left arrow keys will advance or retard the video by 5 seconds, respectively, in both the play and pause modes.
If you see this in the upper right corner of the video, and you select the left mouse button, it will give you a list of recommended videos or a playlist of related videos. If you select this arrow and then exit the full screen, you will see a display of the chapters like this example. This is the listing of the first 6 chapters, and by scrolling down, you can see the rest of the chapters.
For a more complete discussion of YouTube navigation, please go to this video using the link here. Chapter 17. The Bahamas Table of Contents.
Thanks for watching.